Hey everybody, it's Will from the Back 40, and boy did my video about beef coming in from Argentina raise a lot of questions. I'm going to try to do a deeper dive today about the impacts. Now you've probably heard the headlines, Trump administration expands beef imports from Argentina to help bring prices down. It sounds simple, increase supply, lower prices, right? But if you talk to American cattle ranchers and ag economists like I did this week, they'll tell you this plan misses the real issue. The biggest problem isn't how much beef comes from overseas, it's what's happening inside the USA beef market itself when this beef comes in. The White House says the U.S. will begin allowing more beef imports from Argentina, about 4 times more in the beginning. These imports are mainly lean trimmings used in ground beef, not ribeyes, not sirloins. Agriculture economists that I talked to this week pointed out that even if we doubled imports, it wouldn't do much to change what consumers pay for beef in the grocery store. Now, the question is why? Because the pricing bottleneck in the beef industry isn't just about supply. It's about who controls the middle of the system. That's a very important thing we all need to remember as consumers. 4 corporations dominate beef processing in the United States: Tyson Foods, JBS, Cargill, and National Beef. And they control 85% of the marketplace. That means they decide what ranchers get paid and they influence what you pay at the grocery store. Okay? Remember that going forward in this video. When these companies face less competition, they can push ranchers to accept lower prices for cattle while still charging consumers high prices for meat in the grocery store. So even when beef prices rise at the checkout line, it doesn't always mean that ranchers and farmers are getting a commensurate increase in the amount that they're getting paid for their beef. Yes, beef prices have gone up at the auction house, but not commensurate to prices at the grocery store. Ranchers call it a price squeeze, so do ag economists. Their costs, feed, fuel, and equipment have gone up, but what they get per pound of live cattle hasn't kept pace at the same rate. And since the big packers dominate the bidding, there's little room to negotiate. Now you throw in a flood of imported beef, which is cheaper because beef raised overseas is less expensive. And the leverage tips even more against the small producer. Imports become another tool for packers to drive down domestic prices, not to help consumers, but to pad profits, because that additional beef they're allowed to buy overseas is less expensive coming into their production facility than the beef raised by Americans. So that's why so many ranchers, including some who supported Trump, are frustrated with the plan. They say it doesn't fix the broken structure of the market. It just helps the same companies that already control it. And that's true. It gives them additional resources of cheaper beef outside the United States. Now, one Oklahoma rancher quoted in a Fox News piece said, "The issue isn't Argentina, it's monopoly power here at home," and he's right. If 4 companies control nearly everything from slaughter to packaging to distribution, importing more beef doesn't increase competition. It just gives these same 4 companies more and cheaper product to run through their plants. Now, America's cattle herd, and I've said this multiple times, is now at its lowest level in 70 years. Ranchers cut back because of drought mainly, but also because of high feed prices and thin profit margins before the current increases. It takes years to rebuild a herd. So the administration's claim that we can fill the gap instantly with imports, well, that's not a real solution. It's a short-term band-aid on a long-term problem. Now, there are solutions being discussed, and I've talked about these in multiple videos over the last year. There's the Prime Act, for instance, which would allow smaller state-inspected processors to sell across state lines. That would give ranchers and farmers more options for where to take their cattle and create more competition in the supply chain. Right now, many small processors can only sell within their own state, which limits growth and drives consolidation even further toward the Big Four. Now, these changes that the Trump administration's making, as I mentioned in my beef plan video, don't address the inability to sell over state lines. More regional and local processing means more resilience. It means consumers can buy meat that's local, traceable, and fairly priced, and ranchers get to keep a bigger share of the dollar than when they just sell their beef at the big auction houses and send them off into the big beef pipeline. So when the administration says it's helping consumers by importing more beef, that's only half the story. Sure, it might make it easier to buy cheaper hamburger if the packers decide to pass the savings along, but it keeps driving small ranchers and farms out of business. So what happens next? We lose independent producers, rural jobs, and local food security, all while these big processors grow even more powerful. That's not helping American agriculture. That is siloing it, and that is hollowing it out even more as we have in other areas of farm production. There's also the question of transparency. Labeling laws right now and in the new Trump plan have been watered down over the years. So when you see product of USA on a package, that meat could have been from cattle born and raised outside another country as long as it was processed here in the United States. That's misleading for consumers who want to support American ranchers and know where their food comes from. Under the new Trump plan, it could still be the same way. Processed here means American, and we all know that's not true. Several farm organizations are pushing for country of label origin. I've been pushing for this for years through Highlander political strategies so that consumers can make an honest choice. That's another step that this plan ignores. Now, at the end of the day, this isn't just about politics. It's about fairness and sustainability in a vital American industry. Beef isn't just another commodity. It's tied to rural communities, family farms, and an entire way of life. And yes, it's okay to save a way of life. If we keep letting global supply chains and monopolized markets dictate the rules, not just in beef, but across the board, we'll end up dependent on imports and corporate decisions made thousands of miles from the ranches and farms that built this country. That's a complaint that's existed since the Grange movement in the late 1800s, and it's still a problem today. So yes, the Trump beef import plan might sound good on paper. More beef, lower prices. But the truth is it sidesteps the root problem, corporate concentration. Until leaders in Washington tackle that head on, no amount of imported beef is going to fix what's broken. We need a level playing field, one where small farmers and ranchers can compete. Consumers can trust what they're buying, and the value of a good American steak stays in American hands. This is not going to happen in the current system. It's not going to happen under the new Trump plan. So if you believe real reform means strengthening American producers, not just importing around them, then I'm going to ask you to share this message. Talk about it, because this isn't just a farm and ranch issue. It's a food security issue, and it affects every one of us who sits down to dinner every night in this country to eat good quality American produced beef. I'm going to do a video in the near future about the differences in beef imports under Trump and under Biden, because rather than addressing the issue, some of the same characters in American farming and ranching are trying to make the argument that, well, beef imports were even higher in some cases under Joe Biden, so why are we complaining about it under Trump? We're complaining because there's a much different production environment in existence in the United States right now, and the imports have a heavier impact on that than they did under Biden as a result. We're not exporting as much beef, we're not producing as much beef, and because of that, these cheaper imports have a bigger impact. That video will come soon. Really appreciate you giving me the time to make this case, and I hope everybody has a great day.